Welcome back to another Modified Rides podcast. I'm your host, as usual, Brandon Burrell. Today, I have someone I've shot a few features for over the years, someone that has built quite a few, I guess, high caliber builds that he's become known for. Today, I have Nathan Coker. What's going on, Nathan?
What is up, man?
I've been back and forth trying to get Nathan on. Schedule, the hurricane coming through, life stuff on his end. It's, schedules are always a fun part about these podcasts, trying to get everybody lined up. But
Yeah.
so you're no longer with Coker Rod Shop, right? Or Coker's, I guess.
Yeah, Coker's Rod Shop. No, back in 2022, I was just struggling. It wasn't like business wasn't struggling. I had plenty of business. It was manpower. I could not keep up with my workload, and I had a 2-year waiting list. And I sat back and looked at that 2-year waiting list, and I said, it's going to take me 4 years to get to these builds, to get to these people. And I said, and that's not fair. So I decided, I talked with my uncle. My uncle had kind of been side by side with me through basically the beginning of it. I started the business in 2015 and closed in January of 2022? Yeah, it was January of 2022, I think is whenever I closed. And so I closed the business in January 2022. 2021 is whenever I was trying to make that decision. And go. It's my daughter, sorry. So I decided to close the business just because if I didn't, I was going to have a heart attack. It was just my health.
Yeah.
It's just was going to drive me into the ground just because of the stress. And like I said, I could not find no help. Nobody. It blows my mind at the people that don't want to do this type of work anymore to these to hot rods, to trucks, to anything.
That's something I've brought up on a lot of the past podcasts with other shop owners and builders and stuff. It's like, from what I understand, especially in the collision world, the insurance stuff, most of those guys, like the painters and body guys, are aging out and they're about to retire. Well, when they retire, they're like, we don't really have any kids that are wanting to do trades anymore. Like, they're not wanting to learn how to do paint and body. We were sitting at the Pebble Pusher show, me and Wes Frisbee, and he runs a big body shop here in town, and was talking to a couple of the younger guys, and he's like, we have paint and body men that are 6-figure employees, but they're like, oh, well, how much do I have to work? It's like, well, the more you hustle, the more money you make.
Absolutely.
So I don't know what some of these shops are going to do when when these guys retire and age out. Like, is they going to be like, oh, well, that car's wrecked, we'll just throw it away now?
Yep, pretty much. And that was something, I did the collision stuff for probably 10 years or better. Right at 10 years, I did collision work, but I had a knack for doing hot rods, doing trucks, doing all that stuff. Yeah. The collision stuff, don't get me wrong, you can make good money at it, but it's just you're fixing a daily driver, every day.
It's not fulfilling.
It's you get those hard hits and stuff like that, and you can build it back. But to me, I know you got to work on these vehicles for a year, 2 years, however long. But when you get to pull it out and stand back and take that first picture of it done and look at it, and that right there is what it's all about, and the joy that you get out of seeing your work right there in front of you.
Yeah. So let's go back. What got you into custom vehicles before you ever started your own rod shop?
Just kind of growing up. I don't know what got in me. Probably, I would say in grade school.
You grew up in Middle Tennessee, right?
Yes. I'm 45 minutes from Huntsville, Alabama, like 30 minutes from the Alabama line. We're 30 minutes from Jack Daniel's distillery. So we're middle southeast of Tennessee is where I'm from. And, just growing up down here, you have friends, and we always used to just draw trucks. Me and my buddy Cole Scott, my buddy Paul Sanson, just people that I grew up with from grade school all the way up. We just would draw trucks and just dream. And I think my first magazine that I picked up and saw was a lowrider magazine, and I just fell in love with the lowriders. And then I started growing into the trucks, seeing street truck and all that stuff. And then I started seeing mini trucks. Well, my first truck was a 1986 and a half Nissan hardbody. I got that when I was 15. My grandpa gave it to me. So I fixed it up. I turned the torsion bars down on it. I painted it. I had a camper. I shaved the door handles on it. I didn't know what I was doing when I shaved the first set of door handles. I just piled it.
Anybody show you that before? Or did you just kind of guess? And
I just guessing at it. So
I think I have this welder set right.
Yeah, well, I didn't even. That was the thing. I never even welded. I just piled Bondo in the holes. I never even welded anything in it because I didn't know what I was doing.
True mini trucker.
Yeah, so we did that. My uncle was kind of showing me, and he didn't know what he was doing either. So I guess I would say my dad always tinkered with vehicles, but my uncle had the passion to build vehicles.
Yeah.
And that's where I just picked it up from, was my uncle, and me and him just, like, he built a 72 Nova, and I'll never forget that. And I got to help him put it together, and we drove it down the road sitting on 5-gallon buckets for the first test drive because he didn't have seats yet.
Yeah.
But
now that was, were you still a teenager during all that?
I was probably 13 or 14 when we did that.
Okay.
And then he got a 56. He always was into the Tri-5 trucks, the 3100s, Apaches, and all that stuff. So he had one of those and started working on it and fixed it up, did a subframe, and, you know, that thing was awesome. He painted it like a candy green, and, you know, that thing was the bee's knees, you know, back then. And like I said, he kind of slowly fixed stuff up, and then I got my truck, seeing Mini Trucking Magazine and seeing all the mini trucks, because down here we actually used to have a pretty big mini trucking scene. It's kind of dwindled away, and I see it kind of fading back in now. But back, you know, 99 and 2000, there was mini trucks all around here. And
did he have a shop, or is that something he just did in his garage or whatever?
We just did it in his garage. He built underground furniture for a living.
Nice.
Yeah, he did. He built caskets.
That kind of.
Yeah, that kind of underground furniture. Yeah, yeah.
Never heard it called that before.
Yeah, that's what he always called it, was underground furniture. And he did the paint repair on those. Like if they come down the line and they got scratched or something like that, so he would do paint repair on them. And that's kind of where he learned how to do some painting. And then that's how I kind of got into it.
I never knew casket paint repair was even a job.
It is. There's a lot of it. There's a lot of it, you know, surprisingly, because like they're going down an assembly line. So, you know, if one gets dented or scratched, you got to go back in and fix it and, you know, blend the paint back in on it.
Now, they wouldn't like hot rod versions where people would buy a used one from somebody and remodel it. And
no, I don't think so. He never had to do any of that, I don't think.
So you said you were into the collision side of things. Did you go to school to learn how to do that? Did you just start at a body shop and keep going?
No, I started in 2004. I think it was 2004. I went to Shelbyville Tech, which is just a couple towns over. Which is Tennessee Technology Center now. But that's where I went to school to learn how to do body work. I took it in high school, but you don't learn much in high school doing it because, you know, you get all them kids that's just in there for a grade. And so in 2004, I took the class over in Shelbyville, and in 2006, I graduated out and went into the collision world, till 2000. I worked 4 or 5 years in the collision, on and off. Then I went into hot rods. I worked at Street Rods by Michaels here local. It was in Shelbyville. I worked it there for probably a year and a half. And then I went to work at Ricky Bobby's Rod Shop for probably a year and a half. It was Ricky Bobby's Rod Shop and Hawk Speed Shop was one shop together. And but it was the hot rod side, the car side was Ricky Bobby's, and the speed shop side where they sold parts was Hawk Speed Shop and Garage. I'll come back to that name right here in just a minute. It'll all connect. But when I went to work at Ricky's, I worked there for probably a year and a half, and then they split up, and Ricky went back out on his own, and I went with Ricky. And then in 2015, I decided it was time for me to go out on my own, and I left left Ricky's and started Coker's Rod Shop in 2015.
Now, what made you decide to leave a shop that you were already building rod stuff to do your own?
Um,
How do you make that transition?
it was always a dream of mine to have my own shop, but to put it politely and try not to say anything, we just didn't see eye to eye on things all the
Gotcha.
time. And it was just, at the time, it wasn't a healthy work environment. We'll put it that way.
And you knew that you had what it took to be able to run your own shop and do what you wanted to do.
I hope I did.
Did you already have customers that were like, hey, if you do something on your own, I'm
Yeah.
going with you?
Yeah, I always did a little bit of stuff on the side, just to try to make some extra money and try to build up some clientele. But when I left, I had a couple of jobs lined up, and I said, "Hey, are y'all ready to do this?" And it wasn't big jobs; it was just small jobs to kind of get me going. I started the business with like $1,500 in my
Wow.
pocket, and that was it. And
Was it the same building you were at when I'd come to shoot those trucks?
No, I started back. It actually started in Manchester. I rented out the back of a car audio shop. They had a 35 by 70 block building on the back side of the shop, and I rented that from them and just started there. It was cold and hot in the summer, and it was cold in the winter.
So, what do you remember? What your first big build was that you did in the shop, or was it a lot of like little jobs?
A lot of little jobs. So I had a square body that was just basically an all over paint job on the outside, and then they were doing an LS swap on it, and then I painted an OBS on all over on the outside, and then I had a 70 Mach 1 Mustang. That was probably my first big job, and then I rolled into doing I had a Cadillac that I started on, a 68 Cadillac. That was probably my first real, like, full-on big job. We did a LS swap, bagged it. I just painted it like a flat white color, did vintage air and all that stuff. But I transferred that car into the new building whenever I left there. And then I got kind of dabbled into some Model A stuff. I had a Roadster, my 1930 Model A Roadster that we did like a stroked flat head in and just kind of left it all patinaed on the outside. So
Now,
I had a few jobs lined up for about 6 or 8 months. And Chalky Blue, I don't know if anybody knows that truck. That truck was one of the first jobs that I did too whenever I started my business.
now, when you first went on your own, was it just you, or did you have employees right out of the gate?
It was just me.
So you did everything: the welding, the paint, the body work, everything.
Yep, sure did.
So I guess you probably had friends help when you had to go set something like a heavy engine in or something.
Yep. Yeah, and that's where my uncle come in. You know, my uncle still worked his full-time job at night, but he worked second shift. So he was able to get up in the mornings and come and help me for 2 or 3 hours in the morning. So if I needed something done that took 2 people, I had him to help me. So
yeah. So you just scheduled what you needed when he was there.
Yeah. So I started, like I said, I started that bit. I started in the back of that shop, and I run my business there for probably, I think it was right at a year. I was in that building, and then I moved to the shop that you saw me in, which was a shop in Winchester, which is where I was born and raised in Winchester, and it was about 30 minutes away from where I was. So I just started lining jobs up and just started moving them over there because that shop, I went from a 35 by 70 to a 50 by 100.
Okay. Quite a bit bigger.
Yes, a lot bigger.
But now, did you ever have employees working for you other than your uncle helping?
Yeah, I tried one or two. I had a kid work for me for about a month. But he was straight out of high school, and seemed like he had the drive to do it, but he felt like he needed more money, and went and took a job at a factory. So he worked with me for 1 month, and I mean, I didn't even get to give him his raise yet. You know,
Yeah.
he worked for me a month, and then left, and then I had another guy work for me for probably 6 months. And he did good, and then I just kind of got hit a slow spell right about, was it 2020?
COVID era.
Yeah, right before COVID is whenever I hit a slow spell. So I had to kind of figure out what I needed to do. So I had to let him go, and then I actually closed the business during COVID. I hurried up and got a few jobs out, and I closed the business and went back to doing some collision work at another shop for a little while. Well, then when I come back, it was like the end of 2020. I come back, and I would come back on the weekends to my shop and see. I just had messages on my phone, and I was like, man, I got a lot of messages. So I picked the phone up and just start, just going through my messages, and I just had jobs. Just I don't know what happened, but just 2 or 3 jobs just on the phone right there, and I touched base with them, and they were all legitimate jobs, and I scheduled them, and I called that. I went in the next week to that collision shop, and I said, hey, I gotta go. So I went back to doing the hot rod stuff for the next 2 years.
That means you created that name for
Yep.
you. So now you mentioned you was going to come back to the Hawk Speed.
Yeah. So that's where I work now. So
Okay.
that shop, he closed down when him and Ricky split up. He closed his side down, and then a couple years went by. Him and his dad owned a plumbing store and a plumbing business. So they sold that, and he started his hot rod shop back up. And he called me. He kind of bugged me for probably about 6 or 8 months, wanting me to come back to work for him. And I just kept saying no, 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 no. Well, one day he hit the right spot, and I went out there and talked with him, and that was whenever I was starting to think about closing the business. And I went out there, I talked to him, and we negotiated a few things, and we shook hands, and I never looked back.
So before, I guess, go back to where before when you started the shop and stuff, you said you had the hard body you had at first. Go through some of the cool vehicles you've had. I'm sure you've had a few of them.
Oh man, I've had a lot. So in 2000, I had that hard body, and then I ended up. I went through a phase. I went through a phase of mini truck. Then I went through a phase. I had like an '88 Cougar. Like, who wants an '88 Cougar? But I had it.
Evidently, Nathan Coker did.
Yeah. So, but I lowered it. I did a few things to it. I had a big stereo in it. I had that. Then I got rid of that. I got back into a hard body. I got another one. It was a 91 model. I got that. Did the same thing, lowered it, painted it, did everything like that to it. Then I ended up I got into a phase of the Fast and Furious. That was right when Fast and Furious came out.
Yeah.
So I had a Gen 2 RX-7, the flip-up headlight ones?
Yeah.
Not the one that was on Fast and Furious, but the one right before that.
The little one.
Yeah, the little one. So I got that and had some fun with it, and then I traded it. I did a lot of trading. I traded it for a round body Ranger. So that's what started my Ranger kind of frenzy. So I had it, and I lowered it, did everything like that to it. I never bagged it. And then I traded it for an extended cab Ford Ranger, the round body. It was a 95. So I kept climbing up. It was a 93, and then I went to a 95. So I traded it to a local guy that was in the mini trucks here. His name was Casey Vaughn. He had a bagged Astro van running around here with a big stereo in it. He was in severed ties. Like, he was kind of the one that kind of set the tone for around here with us.
Yeah.
And so I traded with him, and then that was my first truck that I bagged. And I'm not proud of it, but it was my first truck that I bagged.
The question I ask people when they go back to that, so your first bag vehicle, would you put your kids in that vehicle right now?
Probably not.
Same answer everybody gives.
Probably not. I don't know what I was thinking. But we're learning. You're learning whenever you're building that stuff. So
technology then wasn't what it is now either.
No. But especially back then, like bagging a Ford Ranger on I-beams back then, No, that was unheard of. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're like this. And everybody
Tires
looks
last
at you.
about 2
Yeah.
months.
Everybody looks at you, you go, you shocks are broke, man. And I'm like, no, it's got airbags on it. They straighten up whenever it lifts up. Well, that ain't good. I was like, shut up, gone. so I did that. And then I got the bright idea that I wanted a roadster. So I cut the top off of that Ranger.
The 95.
Yes, and it was an extended cab. So I cut the top off of an extended cab Ford Ranger. That was not a good idea. And it was like this time of year whenever I cut the top off. So I don't know what I was thinking. It was October and I was like, let's cut the top off of this thing. I was 17, 18 years old. I didn't know any better. So I ended up trading that truck in 2003 for the truck that you see in the background right here. I've had that truck.
Square body.
Yeah, my blue square body. I traded in 2003 to a buddy of mine. His name was Chris Truoff. That truck was traditional body dropped with still the stock transmission cross member. So it was body dropped like 6 inches traditional. I drove it home sitting on the floorboard. It had a seat, but I couldn't fit in it. So I drove it home sitting on the floorboard. And it had a unibag in the back. I don't know what I was thinking, but it had a unibag. So I took, and this truck has went through, this is the third transformation of this truck. And that's, like everybody, people's tried to get me to sell that truck, and I said, I can't. I cannot sell it. That truck has been with me since 2003. It's not going anywhere.
Well before the shop ever came about.
Way before. I painted it before I ever even got the shop going.
The way it sits now, blue and white was painted?
Yes, I painted it. It's been painted for 11 years.
God, I shot it was 17,
wasn't it? 16 or 17.
So it'd been painted. I didn't realize it'd been painted that long.
It was. You shot it at the end of 18 because it was right after SEMA. That's whenever I went to SEMA was 18.
Yeah, with the brown truck.
Yeah.
I didn't think that thing had been painted that long. So now, since we're on the subject of the Ranger, what made you want to go the direction you did with that Ranger? Because anybody in the mini truck world knows that Ranger. It's I'd say is one of the iconic ones because of the amount of hot rod detail you have in it. Like that truck's still timeless today.
And that you just said it right there, timeless. That's what I wanted to build. I don't want, how do I put this? So to pull something out, like you said, 11 years from whenever I painted this truck to today, the truck can still come out, and I wouldn't say be competitive. I try to be humble about all of the stuff, and I appreciate all the kind words I get about the truck, and I thank everybody for that. But to me, the truck's old. It needs a refresh, but everybody tells me I'm stupid. You don't need to do anything to it. Leave it alone. But I'm always wanting to just keep leveling up. But that truck, I can pull it out today, and it still looks just as good as it did 11 years ago and still compete with new builds.
So you bought it with that traditional body drop. So, head basically in the headliner the whole time. Why? I guess, is that why you tore it apart to do a new chassis?
Yeah. So I took, basically I wanted more room. So I wanted a new chassis and I wanted a new cab. So it's had 3 cabs put on it. Obviously, It's not. It's not the same cab. So the first cab, I still own that first cab and that first chassis. It is still in my possession. So it's just a friendly reminder of what not to do. But I still own that. I still own my first truck too, my 86.5 hard body. They're garbage. They're garbage. They went through several people's hands, and I've ended up back with them just to have them for memento pieces. But they're still, I know where they're at. They're still in my possession.
Yeah.
But this truck, I wanted to get more room in it. So I got a new cab, got a new chassis. Pulled what I could off, salvaged it. It was a 4-cylinder truck. I wanted a small block. So I bought a small block, sent it to the machine shop, had it rebuilt, stuck it back into the new truck, laid the new truck out properly, laid the frame out flat. Then I traditional body drop, which was about 3.5 inches at this point. instead of the 5 and 6 inches that it was. Then I went through 2 beds to this one. I put a sliding rag top in the old one. If you'll go back, whenever the truck was primered blue, I wanted suicide doors, so one of the doors used to be suicided on the truck.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I had a sliding rag top. So I done away with, and I had shaved door handles. So all of that got taken away whenever I redid it this past time.
Now, did you build the chassis for?
Yeah, I built the chassis under this one. You know, I built it 14 years ago. I built the chassis. So the chassis needs some upgrading. I've learned a lot since then, but it's okay. It's not the prettiest chassis underneath, but it is a decent chassis.
Yeah.
It's held up. So, and I abuse this truck. Like, people don't like anybody that knows me. Like, I beat on this truck. I am not friendly to it.
You and Phil Fowler both.
Yeah, I spin tires. I do burnouts. I smash the skinny pedal as much as I can in it. So, yeah, Phil, I love Phil, man. That's a good dude right there. Yeah.
Wasn't it you and him that's that main mini Nats picture everybody posts? You and him cruising?
Yeah, and we have not got the mimic that we've been trying to get that picture back, and we have not been able to get that picture back since then. That was just such a perfect moment. Somebody captured that picture.
Yeah. So, so when you finally got the cab and the bed and everything you wanted, the chassis you wanted, is that when you decided to go with the interior? Or did you already have that designed what you wanted in your head? Because your interior is probably one of the cleanest mini truck interiors out.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. And that's all thanks to Big Body, Christopher Tisdale. I let him run with it. So one day, me and my uncle we was working on the truck in the garage, and I said, man, I really want like an old school metal dash for this truck. And one of his friends had an old 64 Galaxy, and he called him and said, hey, I'm fixing to haul this car off if you want to come get this dash out of it. And I said, tell him we'll be right over. So me and my buddy Nick and my uncle Timmy, we ran over to his house and yanked the dash out of that truck, and then brought it back and set it up there, and took 4.5 inches out of the center of it, and it fit like a glove, which we had to make it fit the cab a little bit.
Yeah.
But other than that, you couldn't ask for a better fit. And then I took it in 2014, right at the end of 2014, I dropped it off with Big Body. And I said, do whatever you want to do with it. And that's what I got.
Well, I know you had it done for a little bit before I wound up shooting it, didn't you?
Yeah. Yep. I got it back in 2016. I got the truck back. So he was doing interior, but he was still working at the bus shop. So he built coach interiors for big tour buses and stuff like that. So he was just kind of doing my truck on the side. So it took a little while to get the interior done to the truck, and I was fine with that. But he got it done in 2016 for me.
So that, I guess, was your shop truck there. Like, hey, this is the shop I'm running now.
Yeah.
You've been open a little while. This is my calling card, basically.
Yep, pretty much.
So I guess that one's the one that pretty much put the shop on the map. Was that truck?
That one did. In the mini truck world, yes, that one did. Then Chalky Blue definitely helped us a little bit too.
Which one was that one?
That's the flat blue extended cab S10. It's a round body. It's a metal flake silver roof, and it rolls down into the bed. Okay. I think Little Shop did the sheet metal work in the bed and did a little bit of suspension work to it, but it was shot for street trucks. 2019, somewhere around in there. 2019, 2020, somewhere around in there, it got shot and was featured in it. But that was Scott Childress. He actually is one of the guys that got No Regrets on the East Coast. He started the Georgia chapter.
Okay.
And got No Regrets on the East Coast, and he passed away shortly after he started building on the truck. So his family slowly tried to get the truck going, and his sister wound up with the truck. And they hollered at me whenever I started my business in 2015 and said, "Hey, do you want to finish the truck up?" And they had a very limited amount of money to get the truck going, and I said I'd be glad to. So the club came together, bought a few parts, and bought a few things, and I had the paint got sponsored, PPG. My buddy Louie up in Indiana got the paint sponsored for it, and a few things, and all we had to do was throw some labor and buy some parts for it, and it turned out pretty good.
Nice.
But
Now,
that truck, the Ranger, my buddy's Nick's S10 really, really helped too. Like it was the green one with the graphics that ran across the hood and come across the roof and ran down the tailgate.
square body or round body?
It was a round body. Chris Denton ended up buying it from him and ran around with it for a little while. It was a step side. It was on 22s.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But we did all that truck, did all the metal work, did all the sheet metal in the bed, repainted it, did everything to it.
That was that was after mini trucking closed. I was thinking, wasn't that the one that was in mini trucking? But that had graphics down the side of it.
Yeah, it had down. This one was shot in one of those pictures that had all the trucks with all the graphics on it. They put it in a circle. Yeah.
I'm sure I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So while you're doing your truck and these other couple trucks, is that what your main customer was? Was people doing that caliber of stuff?
Yeah, I was trying to get to that. I had obviously I had some stuff going on in the shop and trying to keep everything going with it, but I had some hot rods in there, and I had a guy that was doing some flipping. He was a flipper, and we were trying to make money for him and trying to make money for myself on all of that. So I had some business in the shop, but like Nick's truck was like that. He got that friend discount, because he's been my friend for 20 years.
Yeah.
So he got the friend discount. So his truck got worked on whenever I had time. So type of deal. But yeah, I mean, I had some business. I did some collision work at my hot rod shop, just to kind of keep the doors open.
Yeah. So I know you've done a few SEMA builds. What was your first SEMA build? The Blazer?
Yes. The Blazer was, we teamed up with Rob Perry on that build. He hit me up. I think it was the Spark show. So it was August.
Okay.
He hit me up in Pigeon Forge and said, "Hey, I might have this Blazer sold and it go to SEMA." And I said, "Oh, okay. That'll be cool. Like when, like this year, next year?" He said, "This year." And I said, "You realize that's like 2 months away, 3 months away?" He said, "Yeah." So we, that was a blur on that build. So Rob finished all the sheet metal work up and finished all of the fab work up that he could at his shop. He sold the Blazer. Mike Alexander and the company Flow actually bought the Blazer. And
when did they buy it?
They bought it in August. And then I got the Blazer September the 1st.
So Mike gave you plenty of time to get that done.
So I got the Blazer September the 1st. I sent it off to have it blasted, brought it back in bare metal the next week. We stripped it all apart. There was still we found some rust. Obviously, there was a little bit of rust. It was because it still had the original paint on it.
Yeah.
So we stripped it, fixed everything. The roof skin was demolished on it. So we ended up having to go out to BFE to try to find a roof skin for this thing. So we're out wandering off in the mountains here, and we find a roof skin. So we come back, put a roof skin on it, do all the metal work that we need to do, primered it, body worked it, tore it all the way back down to the chassis, painted the chassis, painted everything, I think in what was that, 7 or 8 weeks?
And those that don't know, this is a square body K5 Blazer.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, it was a 78 model. Yeah.
And it wound up making it to SEMA that year.
It did. It was barely running, but it made it. We finished the whole thing. Rob like lived at my house for probably 4 weeks, and the stories we could tell on that thing, it was just night and day. Like I'm telling you, dude, that thing like it wore us out. Like we worked, 14, 15, 16 hour days, and was just go home and go to sleep. We'd go home at 2 o'clock in the morning, go to sleep, and be back up at 6, 7 o'clock the next morning, going to the shop to work on it again.
So
And
you learned about a SEMA crunch
yeah,
your very first time. You
yes,
were
yes,
thrown into that, thanks to Mike. I'm still
yeah,
trying to get Mike on, so I'm trying to make mental notes of stuff I can harass him about.
yeah, yeah. He's definitely a last minute person.
I had him when I shot Josh Rowe in Suburban. I literally had something change, and I was home that day. I was sitting on the couch that morning. I wasn't doing nothing that day, and he goes, "Oh, by the way, can you get me the photos in that article for Snooki?" And I'm like, "Well, what's your deadline?" He goes, "This afternoon." The photos yet. I've not looked at the
Yeah,
tech sheet.
yeah,
He goes, "Well, I owe you." And then he sends like the kissy emoji, and I'm like,
yeah.
"Can you give me more time next time?"
That was the thing. Yeah, yeah. He wasn't happy because it was one of those deals. I quoted him a price, and that's where you mess up. You don't ever quote a price like that. Well, I didn't realize how much work we were going to have to do. So I said, basically, here's roughly what we can do. And then I was like, I'm charging you by the hour. And he got a little huffy about the hours and stuff like that. But I mean, he paid, and didn't, and it was fine. Like they got the product at the end of the day. But Big Mike, or no, was it? Yeah, it's that Big Mike. He's in Relax. He's down in like the Memphis area. Not Big Mike.
Big Bill.
Big Bill,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So Big Bill showed up. He was like, "Hey man," he says, "I'm supposed to come get that blazer and haul it to SEMA." And I said, "Okay." He said, "When do y'all think y'all will be done?" And this was probably a week before. And I said, "Well, I honestly don't know. Right now, it's at the interior shop." So we took it to the interior shop like 2 weeks before SEMA. 2 weeks before SEMA, and I feel sorry for the interior guy that did that. What was his name? He's up in the Knoxville area. It's
David.
usually David
Corn.
Corn.
Yep.
I felt so sorry for him, man. Like we went up there to pick that blazer up, and Rob was having the glass put in up there. He was having everything put in. Like I'm telling you, this was a stressful time. And so I drove up on a Sunday to pick the blazer up, to bring it back home to finish it up because I still had to finish buffing it. I still had to paint the hood. I still had to do, we had to put bumpers on it. We still had to put a lot of stuff in this thing. So when David was doing the interior, I don't think he slept like the last 3 days of that build. He was like sewing on the sewing machine like this right here, just falling asleep. And I was like, dude, you got to wake up. So anyways, it was supposed to be done that day.
So you're saying a couple of the stitch lines may have been crooked?
Yeah. So I ended up having to sleep in my truck. I finally passed out at like 3 o'clock in the morning in my truck at his house. So I slept in my truck for like a couple of hours. And then when it finally hit daylight, it was like 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning. We loaded that thing on the trailer. He had a doctor's appointment he had to drive to that day. He ended up having a wreck in his car because he fell asleep at the wheel. So it was just, and then Rob, like when we was coming back, Rob had to call me. He said, Nathan, he says, I can't drive. Like I have to pull over and get some sleep. So Rob had to pull over at a rest stop and sleep in his little regular cab Nissan hardbody for a couple hours. And I drove home, threw that thing in the garage, and I says, I'm going home to go to bed. I says, I can't do this. So we get up the next day, and we got like 3 days to get this thing done. So we got 3 days to get this blazer ready, done, sent out the door because Bill's coming to get it in 3 days. And the night before Bill was coming to get it, me and Rob stayed up. I want to say we was up for like 32 hours. And we finally started it up. We never bled the air system out of the coolant system out of it or anything. We never bled any of the air pockets. We started it up and drove it on Bill's trailer at like 6 o'clock in the morning. Strapped it down. We went over and ate breakfast next door at the shop at Skip's Grill next door to us. And then I went and had a haircut appointment, and I don't remember going to get my haircut and coming home. And I slept for 2 days. And then we got on a plane and left and headed to Vegas.
What booth was that Blazer in?
It was sitting outside. It was in the GSI's. It wasn't in their booth, but they had a featured spot out
front. Yeah. It was in front of Central Hall, wasn't it?
No, it never got out there. We were out there in front of the burnout pit. We kind of had a crappy spot with it.
Oh, in that lot out front, yeah.
Yeah. But it wasn't that bad. We were right in front of Ken Diggett's booth when they were outside.
So I guess that would semi lead into, is that where your connection with GSI come about?
Yes. Yeah, and in the next year, since me and Rob built that,
what year was the Blazer?
The Blazer was 2017.
Okay.
And then 2018 is whenever I built the 56. So we come back. Of course, nobody wants to talk about SEMA when they come back.
Oh, I'm one of the ones. I'm planning in November what I'm doing the next year, and people's like, "Why are you starting so early?" Because I'm not doing what you did.
Exactly. So we had this truck as a shop truck. So it was like a plum color. It was just painted flat plum, like a purplish color, and it had Coker's Rod Shop on the doors, and I had a cream colored top on it. And it was bagged. It was still on the stock chassis with a Mustang 2 suspension, and we back half the truck. So I back half the frame and four-lengthed it and did all that stuff. And we had fun with the truck for a few years. And then I come back and I sat down with my uncle and I says, I want to build something 100% to come out of this shop to show what we can do. I know we got the Blazer. I said, but, you know, Rob built it and we built it. So we kind of come together and built it as shops. And I was happy about that. And I didn't have any regrets about that. But I wanted to build something 100% that come out of Coker's Rod Shop. So I come back, talk with my uncle, because the truck was technically my uncle's truck. People thought it was mine, but it was technically his truck.
Yeah.
And I was just the face of it. So I sat down with him. I says, do you want to rebuild this truck? And I said, it's going to cost a lot of money and a lot of time. I said, if you want to do this, I'm willing to do this and stick my money and your money into this and our time and build this truck to take to SEMA next year. And he thought about it, talked with his wife, and said, yeah, I'll do it. So I started hitting up GSI because GSI didn't even have a chassis yet for the 55 to 59s.
Really?
No, they were coming out with them the next year. So I talked with them, and they said, I talked with Scott Nelson, and was kind of back and forth because we got on talking terms, got phone numbers, everything like that at SEMA, and they was real pleased with our work on the Blazer. And I said, well, I'm going to build a 56 next year. And he said, okay, well, just holler at us. We'll try to get you a chassis. I had one of the first 3 chassis that come out for the 56s.
But it went to SEMA for them.
Do what?
It went to SEMA for GSI, though.
Yes, for GSI, yes. Yeah. So we got that chassis in March of 2018. And I started that build. I kind of started doing a few things in November, December, but I couldn't do much because I didn't have a chassis.
Yeah.
So we had brand new doors for the truck. I hung the doors on. We had brand new latches, brand new stuff. So I started hanging stuff onto the truck and started doing some little bit of fab work here and there, fitting everything. Well, the chassis shows up in March. We get the chassis out, and as soon as people to get sponsorships and to get a spot into SEMA is really, really hard if you've never done it.
I tell that to a lot of people, and we bring it up quite a bit on these podcasts.
It is next to impossible to get that. I didn't even know if I had a spot locked in until it was the end of January, whenever I finally got the notification that we was gonna have a spot.
Which is
So
super early for people to even let somebody know. Usually it's
it
like
is.
August.
It is. But I had to do that in order to get sponsors on board. And you know just as well as I do, people don't want to talk about sponsors till like April or May.
Yep.
So I typed up a proposal and started hitting up these spots. Well, the first ones that jumped on board was Detroit Steel Wheel. And I was blown away by that. Well, GSI obviously was first.
Yeah.
Then, because they gave us the chassis at a very, very good discounted price and gave us the spot. Then, Detroit Steel Wheels sponsored our wheels. I did not think I was going to get wheels sponsored, but they sponsored us 100% with the wheels. But what people don't know is you have to give them your credit card number, and if you ain't at SEMA,
Yep.
they gonna bill you.
Yep.
So that truck had to go. So we had that. Who else? Vintage Air stepped on board. They gave us partial sponsorship with their front runner kit and their and all of their front runner kit and their system for the truck. And then All American Billet, we had their hood hinges. That was their first set of hood hinges for the 55 to 57 trucks. And they actually sent me their prototype hood hinges to mock up on the truck till they could get the other ones in production. So I thought that was pretty cool of them. We had a lot of good sponsors on it. BASF sponsored the paint on it.
I think a lot of people don't realize. They think, oh, you're going to SEMA, everything's free.
No,
You still have to get there. You still have parts to buy. Like that's
yep. We still had 50 grand in parts.
even with sponsors.
Even with sponsors, we still had 50 grand in that truck. That was just in parts.
And people don't see that aspect. They see the stickers on the back window. They see it sitting in Vegas. They think, oh, that's all paid for. It's like, no.
Nope. Now, like I said, we did get some good full sponsorships. I Did It sponsored us. We had one of their new push start buttons that come out that year. I mean, we had some really, really good sponsors, but we still had to buy stuff too. So it's a give and take, but you have to show up or you're going to be out a whole lot more money.
And it's not cheap to drive, especially with a trailer from Tennessee to Vegas. And
in 2018, gas prices out west, they were averaging around a little bit over $3 a gallon for diesel in 2018. I think I calculated it up. I had $1,500 or $1,600 just in fuel out there and back.
You're pulling an enclosed though, right?
I was pulling an enclosed. Yep. So I was pulling a house behind me. So with that, shutting the shop down for 2 weeks, I was gone for 10 days.
Yeah.
So doing all that, I think that trip roundabout cost between $5,000 to $8,000 roughly of money. It was almost $5,000 out of my pocket, plus the money I lost at the business whenever I closed the business down completely for 10 days.
Yeah. Well, it's like I think last year when I drove the Sierra, I was right under $1,000 round trip in fuel and def and everything. But it's like, then there's 2 hotels nights going out. There was 2 hotel nights coming back. And then you're in Vegas for, however many days. So,
So, and that's the thing, like Big Body did the interior to that. So he rode out, like we literally loaded the truck up at his shop and left for SEMA. It was another crunch. Yeah, it was another crunch. So we loaded it up. We was trying to leave. I had to be there on a Saturday. So we was trying to leave Wednesday morning. And I think we didn't leave till like Wednesday afternoon at like 4:00 at his shop. And that's when we left.
Yeah, because I usually leave Wednesday morning, and like last year, we made it to the other side of Oklahoma City. Then we made it to Flagstaff the next day, and then was in Vegas Friday.
Yeah, ours was we made it to Little Rock, Arkansas, the first night, which was like 12:00. So we stopped in Little Rock, and then the next day we made it all the way to New Mexico, and then we start. Then with the next night, we drove all the way into Vegas.
Yeah. So
And
that was your second SEMA
second
experience in
SEMA.
that.
Yeah, yeah.
And have you done it since?
No.
Do you want to do it again?
Yes, I would do it again. But
Not start in September.
Yeah, I don't start in September. That's for sure. I would do it again. A lot of people. I don't know if you get much business out of going to SEMA. I think it's more or less you just kind of get that little kind of notch on your belt that you get to say you done it. It could lead to big things. It just all depends on your marketing and who you get to talk to while you're out there.
Yeah. Well, it's like, I always thought that first year I did it in 14 was going to be one and done. Well, here it's 10 years later and I've still got another one going, but it's like tires just shipped last week. Yeah. So they won't be here till this week. I got parts that one of the companies is out of that they're pulling out of their show trailer that they take to shows to sell stuff to get me parts. So it's like, I'm nowhere near the amount of fab work like you had to do on those, but it's still those last minute, like, is this part going to be here in time? Was it 21? We shipped my wheels to Vegas because they were like, hey, the wheels shipped tomorrow. I'm like, the truck shipped yesterday. So so we had to ship them there, but it's that last minute deal because these companies want the newest and their best parts they've got. So
absolutely. And I was overwhelmed whenever I went in 2017, but I was really overwhelmed in 2018 because I got to be inside of the North Hall.
That North Hall lobby you was in was a prime spot for that truck.
That was a really, really good spot. But what sucked is I missed out on the cruise out to SEMA. I've always missed out on something because when we get there, you have to unhook your battery when you're inside.
Yeah.
So when I unhooked the battery, we had a Phytech just come out with their retrofit LS fuel injection system. So it looked like a Holley 4150 carburetor sitting on the top, and it ran the transmission and everything. Well, we didn't realize that it would lose the memory to the tune. So I was sitting there trying to start it. The fuel pump wasn't working. Nothing was working. And when the way we did the truck was the whole ECU and wiring harness and everything was bolted down and hid underneath the seat. So we're in the North Hall, took the seat out of the truck. We're trying to figure this stuff out. Anyways, we was finally able to find Phytech at SEMA, and we was able to get them down there. They took the computer back up to their hotel room, flashed it, put a new tune back into it, brought it down, and the truck fired right up, and we drove it into the trailer.
Well, this year, I don't even think I'm fooling with the cruise because we're staying at Renaissance, which is right beside the booth that the Tahoe is going to be in. It's like, usually last year it was different, but when they did the Ignited, like there was 2 years we pulled into Ignited and they're like, we're full. You just need to go on through. And I was like, I've sat here for 2 hours trying to get out. Now you're full.
Yeah.
This year we're going to watch the cruise because then, we don't have to go nowhere.
Yeah. That's the thing. Like the cruise out is cool, but dude, it is, 3-4 hours of just people cruising out, like just barely moving. It's cool, but if you got something that runs hot, you better make sure your cooling system's right.
There's many of them will blow a radiator there in line or so. Yep. So you sold that truck.
Yeah, we sold that truck. Yeah, Philip Sheik was after that truck whenever it was the flat paint color. And there was he kind of hit me up after we got the truck back from SEMA and was like, hey, I want to buy it. And I said, I don't know. So we him-hawed around and come to agreement on the truck. And I sold it in 2020 is whenever he came down and bought it. And there was like 5 things that needed to be finished on the truck. I said, there's 5 things that need to be finished on this truck. I said, you take it like it is and finish those 5 things. And I said, this truck will be well into the 6 figures. And he says, all right. So he took it. He enjoyed it for a little bit. Ended up jumping through a couple of people's hands. And then it went to this guy in Missouri. Everybody passed my phone number off to these people, and I'm like, y'all, quit passing my phone number off. Like, this truck's gone. It's been gone. I don't know what y'all want. Like, but anyways, the last guy that owned it hit me up, and he was like, hey, what's the paint codes to this? So I gave him the paint codes. He ended up painting the roof and doing a few little touch-ups here and there. And then the truck sold at Meekum at Kissimmee, Florida for $172,500 is what it finally sold for.
Was that before? That was after the chrome bumpers went on it.
Yes, Boris's brother-in-law, Chris Hahn, bought it from Philip. And they did the wheel swap and the chrome bumpers back on it.
Well, no, right after Philip sold us when he was trying to buy the Ram from me, and we were back and forth a handful of times, and it just, that didn't work out. But that's when I was like, I'm just going to keep it. Took it back to SEMA and all that. Personally, in my opinion, I think the chrome bumpers on that killed the look of the truck.
Everybody did. Everybody said that. But, that's what he wanted. It was his truck. I built what I thought would be a timeless truck to pull out, 15 years from now and still go out and just compete and still, not look like it's dated. And
I'm still pissed that feature never ran.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I know. I'm mad. I'm not mad at you, but that truck needed a feature.
And the photos were so badass when
they were awesome. Out. They were awesome.
So the people don't know, we were trying to find a place. I shot the Ranger and I shot the brown truck, and we rode around. And Nathan goes, "Well, there's an airport down the road. Let's go see what's what." I just walked in the airport and said, "Here's my business card. We need to shoot down here." And they were like, "Okay."
Yeah. Just stay out of the way of the plane's fueling. That's what they said.
And I still have that one picture of that one plane fueling with the Ranger sitting there shooting into the sun. Like that was, I've shot more at airports in the last 5 years than I have anywhere.
Yeah. There's, and this is a pretty nice little airport. And it's, that was probably by far my favorite photo shoot ever that I've ever been a part of.
Nice. Glad I could help with that, even though one of them didn't run.
Yeah, it's all right. But maybe one of these days. But
what people don't get is that's out of a lot of people's hands. It can be guaranteed to run. I've had stuff that was guaranteed to cover, and next thing you know, it's pulled. Like it's that just happens in that world. So but that was a fun shoot. That was a turn and burn. Rode that morning, shot 2 at sunset, rode back home, and you're what, 5 hours from me?
You're 5. I think you was 5.5 hours from me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you drove all the way to me and then drove all the way back home.
Yeah, Mitchell came, made him keep me awake driving back. So I was like, don't fall asleep. I'm going to fall asleep in the middle of this gorge. So, well, what, we know you still have the Ranger. So what else are you working on that's cool, that's yours or customers or what?
So when I closed the business, we were in the process of building one truck for the shop. We was building another shop truck. I'll get to that in just a second. And then I took 2 big projects that were pretty deep into the build process. I called those customers. One is this El Camino sitting right here. It's a 85 or 86 El Camino. It's been in the works for several years. It was a basket case whenever I got it back from the blaster. But it's going to be kind of a pro touring, but kind of stockish style car. He's got some 19 by 11s on the back and some 19 by 9.5s up front. Some pretty nice stuff. The chassis sitting right here behind me. I put Ken Diggett door handles in. Just kind of cleaning the car up. And then over beside the El Camino is a 50 model Chevrolet truck that is Scott Whitehead's out of Severed Ties, Tennessee. Him and his dad was building that truck, and it was at another shop, and the guy just was getting too old to do anything, and he asked me to try to finish the truck out for him. And his dad passed away while it was in the build process, so it is sitting over here, and it's in bare metal right now. We're doing some straightening up. It was supposed to just come in for paint, bodywork and paint. Got here, it needs some love on the metal work side of it. So we're going to give it some love. I haven't got to work on things since I moved home as much as I'd like to. It's been a very, very slow process because I went from a 50 by 100 shop to a 40 by 50 shop and trying to cram everything into this. So I've got stuff in here and I've got stuff across the field at my uncle's garage over at his house. And it's definitely a struggle trying to come home, be a dad, be a husband, keep your house up, do all those things, and still try to work on customer stuff. So I get Friday, Saturdays, and Sundays off. Friday and Saturday, I try to work in the shop as much as I can. But also, I have to tend to my personal vehicles too, so I have to keep maintenance up, do stuff to those, not let them get run in the dirt either. Have to mow yards, do all that stuff. So I try to do that. And then Sundays, me and my wife, like right at almost 2 years ago, we took over the youth group at our church.
Nice.
So we are youth leaders at our church. So Sundays are, Sunday nights are youth. That's what we do with the youth. So that's something me and my wife felt like we was called to do, and we really, really, really enjoy fighting with those kids, man. It's fun.
Even though you don't look like the typical youth leader, the tattooed up,
yeah. Well, and I guess that it is. But man, I get in there and we play kickball, dodgeball. We take them on trips. I mean, I get in there and I play with them. I'm 40 years old and I get in there with them.
They probably gravitate towards that because they probably see you as like this guy's a cool guy. He's not just some grandpa that's
Yep. So I think they do. I think we've got a good relationship built with them now. They're the youth leaders that was there before just kind of up and left with no warning. So a lot of them are still kind of skittish a little bit, but I feel like we've built a good relationship with them, and they trust us a lot now.
Nice.
Yeah.
So in between the customers and the stuff you've had with the move and everything, you also built an OBS that those on YouTube can see sitting behind you.
Yeah. Right there.
So that I've been harassing you forever to shoot. You get it done. We go to shoot it, and for some reason it decides it don't want to run. So
this truck. So the 56, we named it 99 Problems, and it was definitely like that. This truck is the stepchild to that. So, but I think all the bugs are worked out now.
Knock on wood.
So hopefully, fingers crossed. But that was another truck that me and my uncle started building. I bought that truck. I think I bought it in like 2018 or 19, and it sat in the back corner of my shop. And I just wanted to build a really nice stock showroom floor lowered OBS with an LS swap in it. Well, you see how that turned out.
Oops.
Yeah. So we ended up with this. But I've always liked the two-tone browns. A lot of them, as Ronnie on C10 Talk would say, that was the no-sale browns, the no-sale, whatever he said. They stayed on the lots. They would not sell. But now I think people are gravitating towards that two-tone color of them.
Well, even my Tundra, when everybody's like, "Why are you building a brown truck?" I'm like, "Trust me, when it's done, you'll like it."
Right. And so we had some sponsors. I was trying to build this truck, and I was trying to take it to Dino's in 2021. I think that's whenever I was trying to take it to it. Then I was trying to take it to Battle in Bama in 2022, and that didn't get to work. But I can honestly say this truck, the way it is now, it's 100% paid for. Nothing is owed on it. Everything was paid in cash for it. I'm very, very proud of that. I was able to get some sponsors on board with the truck. We haven't really got to give those sponsors a good shout out with it. One being the paint. Tammy Miller, she helped start Orion Paint Company, and now she's doing Revolt. Okay. She sponsored this truck whenever she was with Orion. So that's 100% Orion paint and all their materials on that build. But we got race line wheels. Me and Mike Howell at How's It Doing Garage, built the chassis. I took it down to his shop. He had everything. I just didn't have time at my place at the time to be able to build the chassis underneath it. So we got a Fat Fabs front kit under it on the stock chassis, and an infamous 3-link and notch kit in the back. It's 2x4 chassis, stone fab mounts. I mean, it's got a lot of work, and it's boxed front to back. We're running airlift management on it. 24 by 12s out back, 24 by 9s in the front. We narrowed the rear end 5 3/8 of an inch on each side. I raised the bed floor up to look stock. There's like 500 hours in the bed floor.
Yeah.
And then, so the funny thing about this build is I got a bunch of my old friends together that I went to tech school with and went to high school with. And we body worked and did everything to this truck. We just kind of got the old crew back together, and I asked them if they wanted to get together and help me work on this truck. I said, it's my truck. It's 100% just going to be on the side. I said, can we get together and try to work on this? And they stuck with me and saw it all the way to painted and bolted back together.
But that's what a lot of this whole scene / industry, whatever you want to call it, hobby is.
Yeah.
Like, I enjoy more when there's 10 people in the garage working on something. There may be 9 standing around talking trash to everybody. But like those nights of tinkering in the garage is what this is about.
Absolutely.
Trying to get everybody together. It's because it's the stories. Because like you said, building up, the Blazer, like you have all these stories that, you may not go out and share. Some of them you may not want to share, but it's like, that's your memories with your friends. Like, you can look back and go, I remember we broke that mirror taking that thing off, and we laughed about it because the guy thought I was mad, like that kind of.
Yeah.
That's, I think, my biggest joy with this whole scene or industry is the camaraderie with people. People step up and want to help.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And that's, at the end of the day, I mean, that's what it's about. Like, it's, during this build, me and my uncle was like a dad to me. I lost my uncle unexpectedly a week before Mini Nats in 2022. There's 20, man, my years get mixed up. So I think, it's 2023. So I lost him unexpectedly. And, that hit me hard because we was mid-build, like finishing this truck up.
Yeah.
And I said, I don't know what I'm going to do, because me and him we'll build something and then we'll sell it and then we'll fund the other project. So that's how we was doing things. We sold the 56, paid off a few things. Then we funded a little bit of this, so we was able to do that stuff. And whenever I lost him, I lost one of my friends at that point. And that was real hard. It was hard to bounce back from that. And I'm still trying to bounce back from that.
Yeah.
And, because he was my guy. He was my guy that wired everything and was my mechanic and could help me solve problems.
That's why you couldn't fix it at Triple Crown, because you didn't have your problem solver.
I didn't have my uncle, Well, luckily that's what makes me mad about that, is that thing there was something so simple. It was the crank sensor that went out on me at the show. And, I didn't know that. You got to hook it up to the laptop, see what it's doing. So I finally got it home and got it back running. And my buddy come over that was tuning on it, and he looked at it and was like, we drove it around, and finally got it to act up. And he says, it's your crank sensor. You got a crank sensor code. So I bought a crank sensor, stuck in it, and that sucker's been driving ever since.
That might have been your uncle there saying, all right, well, this truck isn't ready to shoot right now. I'm not going to let it drive in. So
I absolutely 100% that was him. He was playing a prank on me, is what he said. Because he liked to prank all the time. So
that's all right. We'll get it shot. Like I said, now that it's done and back running, hopefully we don't have any more hurricanes come through Western North Carolina here.
Yeah.
And, we can get it done, but we'll definitely get that thing shot, and we'll make that happen. So tell people how they find you if they want to follow along with your builds. I know I don't think you get on social media all that much.
No, I just kind of faded. I used to keep up with stuff a lot, but I don't know. I got to where I kind of want to be a little secretive about stuff every now and then. Yeah. So I want to be able to just show little tidbits of the builds and not show the build all the way through until it's done.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I got Instagram. I'm on and off of Instagram. It's Coker's Rod Shop. That's one word.
You just kept the name with it.
Yeah, I still kept the name on there, even though I'm with somebody else now. But I'm gonna tell you, like, I know a lot of people say, "Well, how's it feel to not have your business?" I fought with pride for a long time on it, but the time that I get back when I come home and that I don't have to deal with the business for 7 days a week, on Thursday night when I clock out and come home, I don't have to deal with anything but this right here behind me.
Well, it's like me. I'm booking stuff at 10 o'clock on a Sunday night, or whatever. Recording this on a Saturday, like it's just. I'm the same way. I mean, but when I had a job, I was doing that all week, and then still trying to do my stuff on top of that. So I don't know if I know how to handle it without 24 hours a day.
Exactly. But yeah, and then just Facebook is Nathan Coker. You can find me on there.
Cool. Well, definitely appreciate you coming on. Like I said, when I ran into you at Triple Crown, I'm like, why have I not thought to have him on? And then, figure
man,
at least.
It's been a pleasure. I really enjoyed doing this stuff and kind of letting people know my history and where I come from and my background and how long I've actually been into this stuff.
A lot of people, even though you said there's not a lot of people that want to do this kind of work, like younger people, you still have those guys that are like, well, what's it like to run your own shop? And like, you don't see everybody's success story where they've had 50 years of running this shop, like you're more comfortable doing what you're doing now, but you're still working on stuff. Same thing, Brandon Perry, when I had him on, he did his own thing there for a while, but now it's just kind of his stuff and in the shop like yours. So
and that's the thing. Like, I don't regret any of the business. It was a notch that I got to put on my belt. I don't know what the future holds. I enjoy where I'm at now because I get to manage the paint and body and fab side of everything. So I still get to manage, and I took a lot of my customers. I called them up, the ones that still wanted me to do stuff, and I just took them to the place that I'm at now. Yeah. So if people wanted to go there, they can. So I called a couple of my customers up, took them with me. They said, yeah, as long as you're working on it and doing it, that's all that matters. So people still wanted me to do stuff, but I just, like I said, he gets to handle the stress side of it, and I get to have the fun with it now.
The money and the taxes and the,
he gets to deal with all of that.
Know all about that. So
yeah.
We definitely appreciate you coming on, man. It was good chatting with you and catching up. So we'll definitely keep an eye on things, and hopefully here before long we'll get that truck shot.
That sounds good to me.
I appreciate it, man.
Hey, thank you.